Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Spark Animation 2022. My name is Marina Antunes, Festival Director of Spark Animation and President of the Vancouver ACM SIGGRAPH chapter. Welcome to this very special session on our Meet the Filmmaker series. Very excited to have with us Ben Therriault and PH Dallaire, the directors of Canary. Welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, Marina.
So I wanted to start by asking you a little bit. I was joking before we started recording that when I think of you two, I think of you as PB and J because I always think of you together. But you weren't always together. You're not attached at the hip. But I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about, first off, how you each got into animation and then how you met each other and sort of became this pair?
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll start with my background. Essentially, I got into animation really young with my uncle's old VHS camera. He was the only one who had one. And then it was stop motion, claymation. That's how I started. And after a few years of that, I got a TV show, sketch comedy show with some friends. And part of the comedy show was these sketches, these little claymations with very how do you say, inappropriately violent demises would occur. It was very teenager-ish crazy stuff. And after that I went to Vancouver Film School. I did the classical animation program, which was awesome. And then I moved over to Montreal where I studied in 3D animation and finally got into the industry. So that's my background. And then
yeah. Well, for me, it started at a very young age. I was fascinated by Disney's movie. So whenever I would watch their movies, I would draw their characters. And then later on, as I was developing my drawing skills, I got into trying to do comics and write graphic novels for a few times, but the interest in cinema was always greater than just the page of the comic book. So it led me to buy a camera and shoot a little bit for a while. And at one point, I decided to go back to school and learn animation. So went to the same school program in Montreal that PH attended. And out of school, when it was time to look for jobs, I landed in the same studio that PH.
I had founded a studio with some other animators, other people in the industry, and when Ben applied, I was like, okay, wow, this guy knows how to draw. We're really cool to have this guy on staff. And since then, we have been sort of joined at the hip. That's like 15 years ago.
15 years
and
ago.
We directed about 40 commercials together, a few short films here and there when we could, but very short form. And the dream was always to do what we finally managed to do, is to get this this real 12-minute piece, Canary, done and completed. And now we have the privilege of touring with it, around the world. We're in Italy right now, first time, and we can't wait. We're going to South Korea next, but after that, we're at Spark Animation, and I can't wait to be in my old stomping grounds where I studied.
Oh, we can't wait to have you guys back. So it's amazing. So you've been working together for 15 years. When did and clearly you've always wanted to make a film together. Where did the idea for Canary come from? And then the film always look, I'm assuming that over that course of that period of time, it may the concept of the film might have changed.
Yes, indeed. Like the very start of it was a good friend of mine, Thomas Michael, who's one of the 3 writers on the film with me and Ben. He went to Poland and he went to the Wigzlika, not so sure about the pronunciation, but the salt mines over there. And it really blew him away. These are mines, underground mines, sculpted within, tunnels sculpted in the salt. And they actually have also salt sculptures of characters. And there's a chapel down there, and essentially a mine set up for people to live down there. So it really made him react. He came back and he contacted me, told me about this. We need to write something for an underground movie. It's just at the time, like I didn't, we didn't have a clear idea for a story. It's just, yeah, okay, the setting's cool. And then he kept bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up. And then I was just like, oh my God, please, how do I get him to stop talking about this mind thing? And one night I woke up 3 a.m. in the morning and I had this story sort of running in my head, and I grabbed my phone immediately and started typing away. And this was 10 years ago, this initial spark. And it sort of served as the structure of the story that ended up, we kept referring back to it. And I pitched it, immediately to Ben, and he was inspired by it.
Yeah. As soon as I heard his pitch, because we were trying to, we were looking for stories to tell, and I said, wow, this is good log line, good pitch. I can, so I immediately foresee what it would look like. So that night I went home and just sketched out the character, which I can probably show you.
Maybe it'll focus on. I hope so. But it's really cool because it really did inform like where we went after. And
so it's pretty clear.
Oh yeah. So this is the 10-year-old sketch.
This is
correct.
A 10-year-old sketch. Yeah.
Wow.
10 years ago. And I've got I know it's August 9th, 2012 when I got the flash, because I've got my iPhone note of it. So it's just over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you have like a timeline of exactly how this inception came to be. That's amazing. So, I mean, clearly the design hasn't changed too much, but I mean, over that period of time, a lot of things have changed. I know that, you moved studios, you've grown as artists, you've grown as individuals. So can you walk us through a little bit of that, from that initial concept and idea and these first sketches and first ideas for the story, and then how that developed into the final film?
Marina, essentially, we were trying to make another film first at the studio I had founded with these other guys, and throughout the years, like for Ben and myself, it was like this hope that we'd get to do a real, short film there. We were doing the commercials to put away, save some money, and then invest, and then do it. We had some good years, some really good years, and the money was there. And then that's when we sort of discovered the other partners were not gonna do the leap with us. And we had been working on a short film called Outside about this little black cat with a bell around his neck. We had to unfortunately leave that idea behind. And that's when we quit. Essentially, we announced, okay, we're going to find a new home. But we had the pitch for the Canary idea. So we pitched that to Sébastien Moreau, the president of RodeoFX. And he was just looking for people to start up a new creative content division. And he bought into it right away. And he really supported us, in building this new division while making a film. So, new pipeline, getting a ton of a team over. And there's a good story about that too, right, Ben? The people who joined us.
Yeah. Well, the people who joined us are the very same people that were at the other studio that helped build our career, So it was all the collaborators from the very beginning that followed us through all these years, that joined us on this other studio to make this dream a reality. And throughout those years while we were writing Outside, we were always telling ourselves in a joke, like, yeah, we're doing Outside, but Canary is gonna be the one that we're gonna succeed with.
Yeah, Outside was gonna be the warm-up short, and it just never happened. But thank God, because otherwise we may have lost Canary, when we did the move. And all our friends that had sort of scattered to the winds, you know, over the years, well, we pitched them the story for Canary, and they said, yeah, they quit their jobs and they came over to Rodeo to do the film with us. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Well, you know, it's amazing because I was going to ask you about the rodeo and how you ended up there because, you know, folks know the company as a VFX powerhouse, but not really as a place to go for short films. So the timing was kind of, it was like meant to be.
Yeah,
It's scary.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
just a good thing too, because with their you know, with them being a powerhouse in FX, it gave us a sense of trust that bringing an idea like Canary, where we have some heavy FX shot in mind, that would go well.
And we knew they'd support us quality wise as well, like, you know, and this was sort of a, obviously we always want to aim for quality, and we knew like Rodeo would not want us to embarrass, you know, what they built. They're known for quality effects, so we're like, yes, we can count on these guys, you know, they'll keep pushing it with us until it's ready.
Okay, so when did the move to Rodeo start, and did you start production right away? But or clearly there were some processes that needed to be set in place before you could actually start working. Can you talk a little bit about that timeline?
Yeah, so essentially we got there almost exactly 3 years ago. And at first, you know, there's always like the big, just it's a new department, so you have to figure out, you know, who's going to play what role, and especially there was the whole pipeline thing, which is a huge question, because Rodeo has an awesome VFX pipeline, very much shot based. And, you know, for animation, we need to work in sequences. The artists, when they're lighting, they need each, you know, shots to speak to the next one. Same thing for the camera. You need flow from shot to shot. So it was a completely different pipeline. And that took a while to put together. And also, all the friends we brought over, it wasn't like one big batch. It was like, okay, we get our good friend Carlos, who's rigger, you know, an amazing rigger to come over. And then we get David, our animator, our genius animator friend, to come over. And then Phil at lighting, supervision. And so it was like little piece by little piece. So it took almost a year and a half to really get going on production. So I would say like it took about, yeah, a year and a half to really get started, and then a year and a half of producing, of making it.
Yeah.
Besides the, you know, the whole staffing and setting up basically an entire new studio, there's always challenges with films. What were some of the key challenges of making Canary?
Well, I'd say that we got two main challenge. The first one was an artistic decision on our part, which for the movie to be completely wordless, speechless.
No dialogue. Yeah.
Like no dialogue. Thank you. Yeah. And that was a challenge because we wanted to make sure that the story we were going to tell would be as clear as possible, and we wanted to convey the emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I can explain. Also, there was the challenge of, you know, there's so the canary in the coal mine, right? This is something that we also worried about culturally. You know, we wanted it to be clear for everybody.
Yeah.
So how do we communicate the fact that the canary's down there to detect invisible gas, to keep people safe, so you at least can follow along, and without dialogue? And we didn't want to get into big like signs announcing this is what canaries are, or any, you know, preamble or supers on screen. Or so it was that, I think that's the sequence we worked the most, is the opening sequence underground, where you sort of set up, okay, the canary is used for this.
Yeah.
And sorry, the second challenge you were gonna say?
You said like
okay.
establishing the beginning of the movie and making sure, because it's been gone. It's something that belongs in the past. It's a story that you know, so we needed to explain this and the gas as well, to set up the story. So that was a challenge for sure.
Was there any I'm curious, you know, when you are working on a film like this that doesn't have any dialogue, and like you say, the messaging needs to be very clear, did at any point did you try something, or did you storyboard? First of all, did you have storyboards so you knew exactly where the story was going, right?
Very very developed storyboard we did.
Yeah.
Because this was a first experience for rodeo. We needed the film and storyboard to play almost as clearly as the final, you know, to make sure everybody's on board, everybody's trusting what we're trying to do.
So I have a big background in storyboarding for sure. So that played a lot into the writing. How do we approach the writing, and how do we set up our beats, and it was all explored more seriously at that stage as well.
So I assume that what I was gonna ask when I asked about storyboards was at any point during production where you were working on a scene that, you know, you thought was working, and then you developed it to a certain point, you thought, okay, that's not working the way we needed it to, we need to tweak this?
I'd say yes. I'd say again, the opening sequence underground, when we got to layout, is one that we did rework a number of times at layout, because it had a lot of challenges beyond just the clarity of the gas and the bird. There was also how things are situated. We're introducing all the characters, including the two main characters in that sequence. There's so many things to juggle.
And also, we wanted to set the tone of the movie up top, so that we could focus more on the relationship between the characters.
One of the things I thought was really beautiful about the film, and the whole thing is just so pretty, and the juxtaposition of sort of like the darkness underground and the brightness outside, and this concept of hope that plays through the film is really amazing. But there's a tendency with like, and I can't believe that underground is where most of the story is told, because it's so easy to get lost in the darkness and for it to kind of all just sort of like blend into like dark. Can you really tell what that is? But the film has these amazing lines, like it's clear what everything is and what everything is supposed to be. Can you talk a little bit about the challenge? I can only imagine that lighting was a tremendous challenge. Can we talk a little bit about lights?
I can definitely tell you that, well, thank you for noticing this. And lighting was a challenge. And even at the end, we clearly dropped those sequence by 2 to 3 stops.
The exposure
to make them also feel, because one thing that I really like is when the lighting also tells the story. And by doing that, it helps the narrative that you want for the little boy to come out in the sun. And I don't know if you notice, but we also play with the aspect ratio size at that moment. We're opening the gates to, and
full
it's
frame
done
when he comes up top.
It goes to a 16:9, and it comes back to
239.
239, which is like a pretty radical change. But
we
so put pleased. It in there.
We're really pleased that almost nobody notices, because that's what we wanted, just for a feeling of suddenly you're breathing, you know, it's not so constrained.
Well, you know, now I'm gonna have to watch it again and look for that constraint, that change. That's amazing. Okay, I have to ask, did that come from Mommy? Have you guys seen Mommy?
Oh, yes, but we had played with aspect ratios in the commercials that we'd done a lot. So, you know, we were already, you know, thinking about that.
That's
But
awesome.
that's a good comparison. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't as obvious because clearly I did not notice it. Am I thinking correctly? Did you guys use Unreal for production as well?
No, this was lit in Houdini using Redshift. We use the Redshift renderer for this one. So it's another kind of quick renderer, although it's not fully real time as Unreal is. We did a few tests early on with Unreal, but it just, yeah, we weren't ready to jump in. It just felt that whatever we were seeing was 90% of the way really quick, but then getting that extra 10% was really problematic for us anyways, you know, it just wasn't our tool.
So I know you guys finished the film just in May of this year, so it hasn't been out for that long. But I mean, there's clearly you had a deadline in mind, right? But there's always this feeling of, oh, well, if we had a little longer, we could change this or fix that, or, you know, you could be playing with this thing for another like 5 years. So can you talk a little bit about, you know, having that set deadline where you had to be ready and what that sort of push to the finish line looked like for you?
Well, we always were aiming for, in our mind, you know, it's childish mind, we were aiming to be done by Annecy, right? And we missed that deadline.
Just because it's considered the start of, you know, the festival circuit usually, you know.
Because we were noodling on the very final detail, as you are saying right now. So, which I'm pretty proud we did, because for us, the story was king, and we wanted the quality as well to be where we felt it needed to be before getting out.
And we're really thankful, like, Rodeo supported us there, because, you know, when we were nearing the deadline and we were not happy yet, we were like, no, the film's at 70%, and we know we only need maybe, you know, 3 more weeks to get it to 90 because everything's in place. You know, it's just fine tuning. And they gave it to us, and it cost us, you know, submitting to Annecy, but at the same time, as I also as well think it was really, really worth it. You know, if we're looking long term, it's a better film this way for sure.
So the film is out making its rounds. I know you guys premiered at TIFF. Congratulations on that as well. That must have been very exciting for the team, premiering at home. That's fantastic. What's next for you guys? I know that you've just started with Canary, so you might not, you know, you're still enjoying sort of the glow, basking in the glow of this release, but, you know, what's next now that you've made one really amazing short film? Is there another one back there?
Yeah, well, the original dream, the one we got since we're like 10 or 12, we want to do a feature. So we're writing right now a few ideas that we hope we have an opportunity to pitch and maybe get the opportunity to do a full feature.
And that's why we're hoping for the most success we can get out of Canary, because that's our, you know, it becomes our calling card, it becomes our credibility. We need to be able to convince people to trust us. You know, we'll tell your story correctly. We can tell stories.
Well, you certainly can. The film is really beautiful. Congratulations on all the success with it. Thank you for sharing your time and your insight into the making of the movie. It's been really, really fun to talk to you. And we can't wait to see you in person in Vancouver.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you again, guys. It's been really, really nice.
Right.
All right. Talk soon.
Merci.